Hey, Shalom, Markin, to the Karma Kapashim, James Lana, giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bah Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Bah Hashem Hakwadash. I'm going to give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful, like pushing this truth in all sincerity. Back in another video, I'm going to title this one, Brain Chips Are Coming. All right, we're getting closer and closer and closer to this big man. You say we got the war going on with US and Israel and Iran. Okay, and we got brain chips, looking to make their commercial entry, right? Thanks to China, because if anyone can do it, China can do it, and there's reasons for that. We know we know they do everything in mass production. They got Bear Man working on the case. There's like 1 billion people in there working in sweatshops, right? Making shit cheap for us, right? Temu and all them things, right? But and obviously their lack of their I don't know, what would you call it? Stringent processes, I guess, for lack of better words, right? They can do more questionable things easier, right? But this is why the elites have all these different projects all over the world, right? They're all working on it, and it's weird, like why are they all working on it? And when you read this article here, it doesn't sound like anything different than what these other men in the US are doing. So, he saw these elites have all these things going on because, well, going on all around the world because they're able to push things further in certain regions, okay, before it becomes universally adopted. Right? It becomes out, comes out into the main market. But yeah, let's read the article, man. And we're gonna see chips, brain chips and other implants coming soon, man. All right. So it says China approves the first brain chips for sale and has a plan to dominate the industry. Right. Like I said, that's what China are working on right now, dominating industries. They're trying to dominate the car industry. They're trying to, dominate all these different types of, electronic realms and all that kind of, business, right? Because they can just produce their shit on the cheap. All these, CPUs and RAMs and all these different types of things, right? Trying to be doing it on the cheap, right? That's why everyone moves their work out there, right? So while the United States and Europe are moving cautiously, right, things are typically slower in Europe and America, right? Because of the different laws that we got here. Okay, that we that kind of like act as extra barriers, a bit more restrictive, right? China, most likely has a lot less, right? And just like other parts in the world where like I say, got different projects going on with like digital currencies or universal basic income. They got things just floating around everywhere, different parts of the world, trialing and doing things, right? Until it all comes together, man. Right? That's what the elites are doing. Right? What might cause an uproar in one nation, they might not do it there, but they'll do it in another place and it works fine. And, until there's no cases against these things, like all these things, like it's safe. It's this nation's been using it for years now, and everything's right there. So all they're building up all these cases so they can present to the world, look, man, everything, all these different technologies, they're fine, and we should adopt them because it's going to benefit us because they're going to implement all these things in the crisis, right? That's what you're going to find, right? But they're going to like I say, try and make it commercial, try and make it palatable, so people are get into the mindset of taking these things, right? That it's okay, it's not that big a deal, right? That's what they're currently doing. And like I say, China can mass produce the whole lot of these, right? So you're gonna see it. You're gonna see them soon, man, and hear about it. People having it, right? Because they want to play computer games with their fucking brain or some shit, right? But anyway, let's get into the article, right? It says while the United States and Europe are moving cautiously forward with clinical trials, China is racing toward the commercialization of brain implants. Right? China has made history by becoming the first nation to approve a commercially available brain chip to treat a disability. Neo, which means new, the implant developed by Neuracle, right, which is like a combination of words, right? Neuro and miracle. This is miracle technology, right? This is Esau's miracles that we're going to get into the scriptures. Is part of his miracles, right? I'm going to read it. You'll see what I mean. So by neurological medical technology, translate the thoughts of a person with paralysis, right? So they can give, cause a lame to walk, give sight to the blind, and all these different types of things that you read in the scriptures. These are Esau's miracles with his technology. All right. Translates the thoughts of a person with paralysis into movements of an assistive robotic hand. After 18 months of testing that proved its safety, China's National Medical Products Administration authorized the implant for people aged 19 to 60 with paralysis caused by neck or spinal cord injuries that prevent them from moving their limbs. Right, so same angle that obviously all these other companies are working on, or telling you that they're working on for is to cure like people with disabilities, paralysis and whatever. Right, that's what the commercial reason why they're working on these projects. Right, so it sounds like, good for humanity, innit? Good for those that lost the ability to move and that kind of shit. Right, sounds noble. Right, so people shouldn't be too scared about it. Right, so according to Nature, which is funny, the implant embedded in the skull is about the size of a coin. Exact same thing that Neuralink was working on. Right. 8 electrodes protrude from the chip and are placed on the brain in the area that processes body movement. When the user imagines moving their hand, the chip sends a signal to a computer, which then translates it into actions performed by a prosthesis, the robotic hand. In practice, Neo allows thought to activate a mechanical glove capable of performing basic tasks, picking up objects, manipulating utensils, or moving hygiene items. Sources consulted by the magazine indicate that 32 people have already tested the device without reporting any adverse side effects. Right, so there's at least 32 of these people that they've tested on anyway that are rolling around with these coins in their head, right? These chips, right? But like I said, Neuralink's got their test subjects, and all these other companies got their test subjects. They're not the only companies that are working on this, right? There's a few others. All right, it says although several companies are developing brain implants, there we go, and brain-computer interfaces, none have yet received authorization to market their innovations as treatments. Even advanced projects such as Neuralink, Elon Musk thing, have faced side effects that have stalled any regulatory approval. All right, so maybe China will be the first one to do it and bring it out to the market, and they could do it cheap, so it will get people interested, right? Some for gimmick reasons, but some obviously got legit reasons. They want to be able to use their arms and legs again or whatever. All right, but this is the entry, the doorway to get people to accept it and adopt it. This is part of our society now. People are walking around with implants in their bodies to help them do things. All right, once that becomes normal, then the guard of the people is going to be it's going to be down, right? So when Esau is ready to implement this on a mass scale, where access to certain provisions is going to be determined by having these implants, right? People are going to not as hesitant to take it. All right. So this development comes, or it says the plan to dominate the brain implant industry, right? This development comes just months after China issued a policy document that outlines the country's strategy to create a globally competitive BCI industry within 5 years. The plan outlines 17 steps to lead the research, development, application of these technologies. The Chinese government has always supported disruptive technologies. I think from the government's point of view, this policy means that BCI technology has already moved from the concept level to the product level. Felix Peng, co-founder of Neurosys, and Guest Dollar, both BCI companies, told Wired earlier this year. The policy document promotes the mass production of non-invasive, non-implantable devices in various forms: forehead-mounted, head-mounted, and ear-mounted, such as hearing aids, visors, and glasses. It also proposes testing these technologies in higher-risk sectors such as hazardous materials handling, nuclear energy, mining, and electricity generation. Right, so they've got all these other different types of products as well. All right, but the real breakthrough is these brain chips, right? For now, and I like the word "for now," right? Because for now, it appears that this is what Esau is creating these things for, right? But in the future, they'll be used for different purposes, right? Which the scripture outlines, right? It says, for now, brain implants have a clear objective to restore autonomy to people with disabilities, right? That's what it's made for. It's not made for nothing else. It's just made for that, right? And I said that's to get people on board with the idea. Experimental devices exist that allow users to communicate with thoughts, operate computers without moving a muscle, and even technologies that are beginning to restore vision, right? I said, is giving sight to the blind. With the commercial approval of NEO, the industry enters a new phase. New phase indeed, right? And so, it's likely that we're going to see these things and hear about people, walking about with these things. You might just have a conversation randomly with somebody and, last month, I couldn't even walk. I had this brain chip put in my head and now I can walk. You're going to hear more stories like that, because it's going to be out here more prevalently, right? And with that, you're going to hear about more hand implants. Oh, I can open my doors, in my house, with just the chip, and I can pay with my hand. That sort of stuff's really happening. It has been happening. With certain groups of people in Europe, and those guys on the edge of technology and that kind of stuff, right? They have these implants already in their hands doing wacky stuff with it. So you're going to see more of that. You're going to see a lot more of that, right? And I say we're in that time now, because time's an important thing, right? This is why we know we're in the end times, because the things that are happening, right? So let's grab some scriptures. I'm going to start here in Daniel chapter 8, verse 25. And through his policy, also, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, right? Craft is prospering. Craft is moving at an incredible rate, incredible speed, breakneck speed, right? All this technology that we're getting, right, is coming at such a fast pace, okay, faster than it's ever have before, right? And this is indicative of the end times, right? Because Esau has a short time, so all this stuff is happening fast, all this advancement in technology, right? And this is being spoken of in the time of Antiochus, okay, and what he did, right? But this is what's going on now also, okay, but even faster, right? It says he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many, right? So under the false pretenses of help, as the scripture speaks about never trust thy enemy, so though he pretend to help thee. So even though he, like, on the surface, he's trying to help people to walk and give them eyesight again and all these different types of things, it's false pretenses. It's to lure you in. It's the bait. Right? It says, and by peace shall destroy many. Right? Because ultimately, what's going to happen? Those that take the mark of the beast is what this is leading up to, right? He's going to get killed because the Most High is going to destroy them all that take that mark. All right? He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Right? And it's funny because Yahweh Shai is going to make his second return and literally destroy his nation, right? And his armies. But yeah. Right? So we're in that time of craft prospering, right? And craft and technology being brought about, at incredible speed. Let's read that. It's Daniel chapter 12, verse 4 said, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Okay, knowledge is at like in a way at a peak level. Okay, even though it's not perfect, right? Esau's been getting so much visions and know-how on the left-hand side, right, to develop all this technology, and it's rapidly changing how we live, right? All this AI technology is changing the landscape of things, right? And people are getting grounded into the dirt, and so Esau knows this obviously, okay, but he's also got the solution to these things in the terms of like the universal basic income, i.e. you need a RFID chip to verify yourself and to gain access to these things, and right. But Esau's going to bring these things in its completion in the time of crisis, because he's creating a crisis in the world, right? Like I say, you just see what's going on in Iran right now and the effect that's having on the world and the economies and the prices of things, right? That's all going to lead to a crisis, a greater crisis, right? Because it's not just going to be one thing. It's these elites speak about a polycrisis, right? There's going to be so much things going on, right? And you're going to be left with no options had no choice but to accept, these RFID chips, okay, which they're going to roll out, right, in order for you to access, services like, food and all that kind of stuff. So, that's how they're going to bring it in. But before that, it's just going to be like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. Look what you can do. You can play fucking chess with your brain on a computer or some shit. Or you can walk again. You can see again. It looks like miracle technology. So it's like, oh shit, these men are on a level. But it's just a deception, right? To beguile you, to deceive you, into adopting, these things when it really gets real, right? When Esau's trying to impose it, So it's Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. But actually, let me jump up, verse 14, right? So, and deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, right? Like I said, these technologies are looked at as miracles, man. What they can do, but these things, they've already been done. Okay, without all this technology and investment, and that Most High, or Yahushua and the men of the Lord, the apostles, right? They had spiritual power, right, and they could do these things. Right, so all Esau is trying to do is emulate those things that are written about of the Lord and the apostles and the great men in scriptures. Right, they're just trying to emulate those things through their technology because they're not spiritual. They're never going to get it on the left. That's where they get it from right now. They're never going to get it from on the right hand side of the Lord because they don't praise the Lord. They don't worship the Lord. They want nothing to do with Him. Right, so everything is left-handed means. So these demons and Satan, they're given the knowledge of creating these technologies, right, to do similar things. Right, but it's all in vain ultimately, right? But it's all there to deceive people, right? To accomplish their greater goal, which is control. Right? These interfaces, right? It's like a two-way street. They receive signals and signals go out, right? But if the signals are being put in, right, then actually, brothers, boy, you already seen this. So I think what's the movie called, or the series? It's a Netflix movie. Upgrade. I think it was called Upgrade. Right, he was given all these prostheses, all these brain chips or whatever, and he thought he was in control of the system. Let's call it that, right? So he could use stronger, faster. He can do things and whatever, right? But it turns out the system was just being dormant at the time, but it could act on its own. Right, it could be programmed to do a specific thing, right, that you might not even want to do, because it's a programmable system. You program it, right? And so if you're not in control of the programming, i.e., with the hand chip, you can't buy or sell because it's programmed that way. You can't do certain things with programmable money, the digital currencies. Right, this is why it's all working up to control. Because they are the holders of the program. They are the builders and the programmers. So they will dictate what you will and won't do, what you can and can't do. Right. So it's all about that. And so once you got one of these brain interfaces in your brain, right, don't for a second think that you're in control. Yeah, you can do this and that now, but say this, they don't want you to do that. They can just shut it down or send a different frequency into your brain. You start spazzing out. It's all it takes. That's all it takes, man. And you end up like them guys in Equilibrium, man, just void of feeling, void of any emotions or anything. In that movie, they had to take some pill on that to keep the emotions in check. Right, it was just dulling them down, and so they were just susceptible drones essentially. That's what Esau was working towards, man. And so this is just like the face of it to try and sell it to you, to try and sell it to you until he's got got the noose around your neck, basically. Right? But anyway, back here it says, and deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast that which was wounded by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. All right, so this is what Esau's working on. Right, this is what Esau is looking to roll out and commercialize. Right, because this text been going on for a while now in the background, and yeah, we've covered it a lot. So it's I guess we might make it sound more prevalent than it currently is, but it's more prevalent than you think it is. But you're about to see it en masse. You're going to hear about it a lot more, right? But this is the purpose of these chips, right? These marks, right? The charagma, right? Verse 17, here's the purpose, that no man might buy or sell. So what these elites are always talking about, with these digital currencies, programmable money, they want control over the monetary system. They want control of everything, right? But when traditional means of spending and earning is changed, right? Because of crisis, banks fold, collapse, whatever. All right, money is depreciated, whatever the situation is, because it's going to be all of that, really. Paper cash is going to be worthless, right? But they got digital currencies in the background working, waiting to be implemented, right? But how do you get access to that? Now they might drop that, if they bring out universal basic income beforehand, but you might have limited access to it to begin with, but eventually you're going to only have access to it through the mark of the beast, because they want to verify everybody. They want to ID everybody. They want to make sure that you are who you say you are, that that you get the right amounts, and because for your sake, because we don't want to overspend, and we don't want to make we want to make sure everyone gets their fair share. So they'll frame it like it's we want this. We need to know all of this so to help you, to make sure you're helped. But it's basically just to limit things for people, right? So if you're not in the system, then you don't get access. That's why it says, and no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. You won't be able to without it. So that's how they're gonna where they're gonna get with it. That it's gonna become essential. So right now they're just warming you up. All right. It's 2 Thessalonians, and we'll close with this, chapter 2, verse 9. Let me read up a little bit. It's not from 7. So, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, right? That wicked is Esau. It's been revealed, right? Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan. Esau, the so-called white man, he's Satan's little worker in the earth, man. Right, doing wickedness in the earth, right? That's what he's here to do, to be the wicked, right? Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power, right? Esau's in power, right? And signs and lying wonders, right? This technology is part of his lying wonders, right? With all deceivableness, right? He uses the technology to deceive. Everything he does, he lies. He lies constantly, right? So everything he's done is in deception. Right? Everything that they've done is in deception. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause, God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. And this is why the whole world is under this illusion. Right? They believe in these lies. People really want to believe Trump when they listen to him. And I tried. I was actually trying to look at it differently, right? Because I'm thinking, how do people process what he says and believe it? So I was trying really hard, right, to try to take what I know out of mind for the moment, just to listen to him and just take it for face value, like I don't know nothing. And it's really hard. Because even if I tried to do that, bro, I'm just like, this guy's got to be talking shit still, right? Really, who believes this guy? But it's just it's the illusion, or the delusion that the Most High have put on people, that really just Some of these guys believe what he's saying, man. Him and Hegseth. It's like, wow, that is kind of crazy, right? But the whole world is in darkness, right? The Lord's covered them with a veil and they can't see. All right, so that's the Lord's doing. But us, we see it clearly, and it's just like, it's painful to watch other people just not get it. But it's it is what it is. Most High have blinded them, But yeah, they're gonna believe all these lies, right? They're gonna believe that it's Esau is not the so-called white man is not nefarious. He's not got no evil intent. He's just trying to do the right thing. People are gonna believe that shit, but it's not the truth, right? So then, with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, that's like verse 11. And for this cause, God shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, right? And this is why the scriptures is the anchor, is the foundation to everything. No matter what's going on in the world, because like we mentioned before, it's really difficult to believe what you see and what you hear that comes from the world. It's really difficult, right? You have to scrutinize everything, and even then you can't be sure. But the only thing that we can be sure about in this time is the scriptures. Right, so whether Iran or America's doing this or that, or whatever the true narrative of what's actually going on out there, because we're not there to witness it for our own eyes. Okay, we are relying from information coming out, from different sources and whatever to try and decipher what's going on and what the likelihood of whatever it is that's going on, right, according to the scriptures. But we have to use the scriptures to determine that, Because without it, like I said, there's a whole bunch of AI fake videos out there. There's a whole lot of shit going on. It's hard to believe what you're seeing and what you're hearing out here, right? And that's why we have to rely on the scriptures purely, right? And we trust in the truth, okay? That they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but have pleasure in unrighteousness. But we are bound to give thanks always to the Most High for you, brethren, beloved of the Lord, because God hath from the beginning chosen you to salvation through the sanctification of the Spirit and the belief of the truth. Right? So that's what we rely on and depend on, the truth of the scriptures. Okay, not what we hear, what we see from the outside world. Yeah, we use this information and try and decipher it through the scriptures to try and understand what's going on. But there's lies, there's so much lies and deception out here. All right, so we don't trust with our eyes and our ears. We trust in the Spirit. We trust in this word. And that's what it is. All right, but yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I said China about to roll out brain chips, man. Crazy. It's about time. We're about to see it, man. Okay, everything is lining up nicely, and I say we're in the end times, man. We've seen all of this happen. Okay, you're gonna see Esau, these world governments start implementing different things that's gonna change the way we live. So yeah, you're gonna see that, man. So I'm gonna end it there, Lord. This has been edifying, and I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until next time, I say shalom.